Good evening. Welcome to the ITC2020 Preparatory Course Open Day. My name is Rendani. I'll be the one taking you through just a high-level overview of our program in order to understand its structure and also how you can best benefit from it. So essentially, what we're going to cover tonight is just a short introduction, which will then cover one, who is Endunamo or what is Endunamo. Then number two, what is ITC all about, which is something that we believe is always critical, especially going or coming from a CTA going to ITC for the first time. That is quite important for you to understand what will be the fundamental difference or what will be the fundamental alignment between what you've spent the year doing and what you can expect in Jan 2020. Then we'll move to just then talk to the structure of the program in terms of what we are aiming to achieve when it comes to lecture, what we are aiming to achieve when it comes to tutorial, and also concluding with the prep exam that we're going to have at the beginning of 2020. Then lastly, we'll then touch a bit of what? We'll then touch a bit on some administration issue as well as exam technique. So the idea today is simply to just get you over the board and to help you to start thinking about how you can actually be successful in ITC. And I'm sure you might have heard both sides of the story where some are saying that CTA is not as bad as ITC. Then there's the other coin where they're saying ITC is not as bad as CTA. So I think after today, you'll then be able to also take in the difference and also the similarities between the two and be able to then use it to also get to understand maybe what are the things to look out for and how you can best prepare yourself in the next couple of weeks. And I think what seems to be a bit tricky is the fact that there's still that uncertainty that we are waiting for UNISA to resolve. So that date is still a mystery to all of us, I'm thinking, or you guys have got some inside information. But the idea is that last year what we saw is that the final results were released on the 29th of November. And we were able to start in the first weekend of December. So our provisional timetable has just assumed the same, and it has then assumed that if the results indeed come out next week, then it means that we'll be able to start the program next week. But should there be any delays, we are saying that we open to accommodating such delays, and what it will essentially entail will either be a situation where the lectures that will be delivered next week will then be repeated again in order to accommodate any delays with the results, or otherwise it will be a situation where the entire program is going to start a bit late. So it will just depend in terms of the number of candidates that will have been enrolled into the program at that time and comfortable to start, and the number of candidates that probably are saying that maybe let's just delay it by a week or so. But given everything, it's always quite important to just be mindful of the fact that as much as the results have been delayed, ITC is still at a fixed point. That the date has been set as the 29th and the 30th of Jan 2020. So whatever you might be thinking, whatever you might be planning, it is quite important to take this uncertainty as well as the fixed date into consideration. Meaning that one thing for certain is that you might have the entire of Jan to study because essentially the 29th is the end of the month. But in terms of December, that's something that you then need to plan carefully around to say that, do you start studying now, or do you wait until the results are actually confirmed? And I think that's always a personal decision that one needs to take, to say that maybe even now when I'm sitting here today, maybe I still have access to my CTA notes, I still have access to the CTA videos. I can actually take this opportunity in order to just start refreshing, looking out for some of the things that I know for me are quite challenging. So that's something that one just needs to consider, looking at the time and the uncertainty regarding the results. So I just wanted to put it out there so that at least when we start talking about what you can expect in 2020, you are then clear of what you therefore need to do, and probably knowing yourself very well, how much time you're going to need in order to actually achieve that. So to get into it, so for our students, most of the things that I'm going to start with, they've experienced, they've seen both the online course as well as the face-to-face course. So for them, it'll be something that they are quite familiar with a few changes, of course. So essentially, in terms of the on-board course, we've been doing this for the past 4 years. And over the years, we've managed to achieve quite good results and also positive impact to the candidates that have enrolled into the program. And it's something that we really are passionate about, and we want to see more of that happening, that every candidate that decides to join us is then put in a better position to succeed in the ITC. Because it's always quite important at the end of the day to say that, yes, when you come into the program, you've got your own expectations. And for us is to then say that overall, this is what we've put into as a structure of the program in order to meet the different expectations. But at the end of the day, making sure that the program is effective into preparing you for ITC and also helping you to secure success. Because at the end of the day, from our journey and the students that we've worked with, for us, the most important thing is to then help you get closer to your dream. And that's essentially what we do, and everything that we've structured and put into the program is all about. Then, what have we put into the program? So here, this is what everyone that will be registered with us will be able to experience, whether you are a face-to-face candidate or whether you are what? You are an online candidate. First of all, you've got what? You've got the online portal. So every registered candidate will have access to the CTA 2019 videos. So the idea here is to say that you might be thinking that you're a bit rusty when it comes to topic number 1, number 2, number 3, and you've seen that these are some of ITC's favorite topics. So what we are now giving you an opportunity to do is to say that you've got the entire suite of courses at your disposal. And if you then need to If you then need to revisit any topic or revisit any section, you've got the flexibility and ability to do so on our online portal. And the nice thing about it is that it has been arranged according to the structure that you've experienced during the year. So you'll find that when you log in, you've got term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, and it means that if you are a UNISA student, you will be familiar to say that if I'm looking, say, for revenue, I need to go to Consolidation and term 2 work, and I'll be able to find all the materials that I need from there. So essentially then, what we then need to, and also what is then important about it, is that all the classes that we're going to deliver as part of the ITC preparatory course will also be available on the portal. So after each and every class, the link will be available on the online WhatsApp platform. And then, in addition, the videos will be edited and will be made available within 24 hours on our portal. So whether you've missed a class or whether you just want to go back to any particular aspect of the program, you'll always find everything you need. Even tonight's session will also be made available on that student portal. Then number 2, again, every candidate that will be registered with us will then be included in the WhatsApp group. So for us, the WhatsApp group is more of just having the registered candidates in there, but it's more of an online engagement community where you're able to engage the lecturers at any time of the day and also engage other students with regards to either admin issues or with regards to any technical issues. So all our lecturers are available through the WhatsApp group that we're going to add you into, and you can then, as you're studying, take a photo of any query you might have and just ask any lecturer and they will be able to assist. And I think even going into the holidays, it becomes a very useful tool because most people are not on their emails, and as a result, it becomes quite efficient to then address queries via WhatsApp community because most people have WhatsApp on their phones. So that's what we will also advise you to do, that maybe you are saying you don't like it so much, but maybe just over the next couple of weeks, it might be necessary for you to just consider having it as part of what? As part of benefiting from the program. Then, printed notes. So if you are joining us for the first time, we are saying that all the material that you're going to get, we give you both the online version or the soft copy as well as printed version. So it doesn't matter whether you're online or you're a face-to-face candidate, you get both the online version as well as the printed copies. And for our candidates, the notes that we are referring to, essentially they will have gotten them during the year, and it's just a summary, or it's just the full set of notes that are provided as part of the program. So for our candidates, it means that they are already one step ahead in terms of that, because it's just the lecture notes, the lecture examples, and that will be talking to those videos that are spoken about under the online portal. And in addition, every candidate who's registered has got the option of either collecting the material from here at campus or having their materials couriered to them anywhere in South Africa for no additional charge. If you are, say, in Namibia or in Zim, there is an additional fee that we charge in order to just recoup the international shipping cost. But other than that, if you are a registered candidate and you are online or face-to-face, and for whatever reason you are saying that you'll prefer for your material to be delivered, you can arrange with the admin team and they will do so. Otherwise, the material will be made available here at campus. Then, as I said, as part of the online, all the classes that we're going to have that are scheduled on the calendar, they are going to be live streamed. So essentially, it means that as the session is being delivered this side, you, wherever you are, you've got an opportunity to log in on your phone, on your PC, on your tablet, and you then are able to what? To catch the action live. And additionally, if you are live, and not around here, then what you can do, if you've got a question, you can also use the WhatsApp community to send any questions through, and during break, the lecturer will be able to catch up on it and be able to address it before the end of the class. So to say that if you are live streaming, then you also become part of what? Become part of the session rather than to wait later on. So this is what I was saying is available for everyone that will be registered for the ITC preparatory course. Then for only the face-to-face, this is something that is only facilitated from our campus. So one, we've got the refreshments. So every day you'll find that we've got coffee and we've got what? We've got water as well as juices to refresh you during the day, especially now in summer or in the evenings, it becomes very helpful. And in terms of the new thing, there's a bit of an upgrade to Jacobs. I'm sure the candidates will appreciate that as you progress, you're getting closer to the CA dream. So we want to give you a better taste of it. So you'll find that's something that we offer as part of the ITC program. Transport, still available, the same rates that we were offering it as for CTA purposes. So if you need any assistance, you just need to speak to our admin and they will assist accordingly. Then student community, this is something that we've also found to be very helpful. And we are saying that if you are in Gauteng, it doesn't matter whether you're an online candidate or a face-to-face candidate, you can come at our campus at any time, either to study or to have discussion groups, or maybe you want to arrange You want to arrange a consultation with any of our lecturers. So the campus is available for you at any time during the day. Or maybe you're saying that you're afraid of going home because you know home, there's just too much fun in December. We can give you access over the holidays so that you can come to campus quiet and use the time to study peacefully around here. Then Wi-Fi, it's also available should you want to say you want to catch up on the videos while you are here. And if you don't have a PC of your own, maybe you've not signed any contract at this point, we can make one available while you're here at campus in order to just facilitate catching up on those videos. So that is something that, as I was saying, is mostly to the benefit of the candidates that are able to attend the face-to-face classes. Then let's talk about what? Let's talk about the ITC, the exam. So, what is the first thing that you need to know? So, is it true that ITC is different from CTA? Is it true that it's more difficult than CTA? Or it's just the same thing? So essentially, if we are to talk or to say what ITC is all about, this one slide captures everything. So this is what SAICA has published and said that any candidate preparing for ITC, they need to appreciate that the paper is going to be out of 400 marks. But unlike CTA, day one, you don't know what they're going to test. Day one, you don't know what is going to be in paper one. You don't know what is going to be in paper two. The only thing that you can bank on is that SAICA will stick to this mark allocation. And one thing that you also need to appreciate is that the mark allocation is not a point, but it's more of a range. And it means that even when you prepare and when you study and when you are even in the exam, you need to keep this at the back of your mind. And why is it important? Because in some cases, there are some disciplines that if you are not strong in, by the time you go into the exam, you should be worried. Because when they are considered together, they can actually do what? They can actually have a negative impact on your performance. So here, in addition, it's not like CTA, it's not like pass all disciplines and then pass ITC. You can actually do dismally in accounting, but as long as you achieve a minimum of 40% across 3 papers and a minimum of 40% across 3 papers and an aggregate of more than 200 or at least 200, then you are fine. So you don't need to get into that issue of I need to make sure I pass accounting, I need to make sure I pass paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, and so on in order to do what? In order to be successful. So it's more of what? It's more of a less stricter way of securing success. Minimum, get an aggregate of at least 200 or more. Then get at least 40% in 3 out of the 4 papers, but both of them need to be what? Need to be true. Then what is the most important things, and how do you then frame this slide based on what you studied in CTA? So in CTA, you will appreciate that you had what? You had those 5 courses, the 2 accountings, audit, tax, as well as what? MENEC. So from an ITC perspective, they actually broke down the paper into about what? 7 discipline or 6 discipline plus communication. And they are saying that any candidate that comes well prepared and is intending to answer each and every question, they can walk away with a minimum of 20 to 30 marks. Remember that communication marks are non-technical marks. They're just saying, do you know the structures? Are you able to communicate in clear English? Are you able to be logical in your approach and your answers? So if you can prove that, or you can demonstrate that to the examiner is saying that you have now secured a minimum of 5%. So from what you will be studying from next week up until end of Jan, it means that you are only working for 45%. So in other words, the assumption is that you need to target all the communication marks and make sure the 5% is in the bag. And essentially, we are saying that go get a sub and you will have gotten what? A pass. So that's essentially what they are saying. Then now you are thinking that, okay, with regards to the 45%, how can I prepare for those? How what I've studied in CTA will then translate into a pass in ITC. So if you check the 4 disciplines that we know very well, the accounting, management accounting, and auditing and tax. So they are saying that each of those 4 disciplines have got equal weighting in the paper. They can be a minimum of what? Of 60 marks and a maximum of 100 marks. So they are not talking about on a particular question, but they're talking about across. So you can get 20 marks accounting in paper 1, 40 marks in paper 2, 10 in paper 3, and 5 in paper what? In paper 4. As long as at the end of the day when it's added up, it gives you what? It gives you, or you puts you in that particular range. And this therefore means that if you are saying that at least I'm strong in tax, you can find in some cases that they're actually at a bare minimum when it comes to tax. In other words, they're sitting on the lower range of what? Of 60. And it means that you need to push yourself with the other disciplines as well. Then another issue, and what we have seen accounting in most cases being maxed out, where you find that across the 4 papers, accounting was sitting at about 98 marks or so. And previously, it was up to 120, and the biggest mark allocation we had seen was about 110 to 115. So that's something that is also important, because you could also be saying that I don't like what? I don't like tax, and the examiner is excited, just like we saw in the June exam, where tax had a total of 87 marks in the paper. So that's something that is also what? That is important in terms of your planning, that you need to have a good balance. And what could come as good news, or maybe not so much of good news, is the fact that management accounting is looked at as one discipline. So in other words, when they are saying that management accounting and finance is between 60 and 100, what we have seen, or what we saw in the recent June exam, was that management accounting costing as we know it at only 25 marks. And the majority of the marks meant that they needed to come from what? From finance. Then you might be saying that, oh, it means that if I don't like costing, I can survive. But then you go a step back and you find that in Jan, looking at management accounting, it had about 58 marks. And there was also a finance question for about 40 marks, meaning that management accounting and finance was dominant, sitting at about 90 in the Jan ITC exam. And usually when people say ITC is challenging, it's around that unpredictability of what will be tested and with how many marks. And to me, that's something that you just need to start conditioning your mind to say that if I get there and they are loving accounting today, am I well prepared to handle that question and still secure a pass? So that's with regards to the 4 disciplines. And they are saying, however, with what you focused on in CTA, you will not necessarily be fine. You still need to consider what? You still need to consider 2 more disciplines. So the 2 disciplines that are not considered to be separate for CTA purposes, and we've seen them just being integrated in other disciplines, are 1, strategy, risk management, governance, and ethics. So if you then look at this, it means that those disciplines that are not standalone disciplines for CTA, they are actually the most dominant of them all. Because when you combine, you are sitting at what? At a minimum of 60 to a maximum of 120 marks. And that's something that it has been more of a concern. And I think when you reflect on most UNISA candidates' performance in current ITC, that's something that you just need to be taking into consideration. That it's not that the person didn't know their work very well. It might be that actually when it comes to this particular discipline, they did so well, but they didn't expect that they will get, say, 40 marks on strategy. They didn't expect that they will get 40 marks on what? On ethics, which was actually the case in the Gen ITC. Gen ITC had about 40 marks on strategy and had about 40 marks on ethics, which is about what? Which is about what do you call it? Which is about 80 marks sitting on something that you didn't probably practice on a daily basis compared to what? Compared to the other 4 disciplines. So to me, that's something that when it comes to the ITC preparatory course, we want to then flesh out, we want to highlight, and we want to ensure that you appreciate that view. And by the time you go on a break, when we finish the course, you are now clear of how to actually study for those particular discipline, which questions are actually ideal, how to then ensure that you score very good marks if they are ever tested. So that is something that I will say what? I will say is the biggest value when it comes to the ITC program, just to make sure that this particular gap, which has a potential to impact your eventual outcome, is well addressed. So the other discipline, we're very comfortable that if you open your file, you'll be able to do what? You'll be able to understand what they're talking about. You'll be able to jump into a PPE question, share-based payment question, cash flow, and so on and so on. And lastly, with something that is also important from a UNISA perspective, it's now the fact that when we talk about accounting, accounting is not what? It's not separated in consolidation and separate financial statements, but it's actually now a single discipline. Why is that significant? So the significance of that is that something that you might not have seen before, the level of integration at ITC is much more deeper than what you will have seen at CTA level. Because in CTA, you knew that if you get a cash flow question, these are the typical issues that will come out. You knew that if you're going to write groups today, these are the issues that will come up. But if you are now sitting, the question could start by identifying a company, then the next thing the company acquires a foreign operation, then the next thing that they are telling you that we want to do what? They want to do a foreign transaction that you will have normally seen in FAQ 4863. And those are some of the things that we just need to, or you just need to what? You just need to be well prepared to do. Like last year in Jan, they had a question where a company sold a foreign subsidiary and they were paid with a financial instrument. And Part A said, prepare a statement of changes in equity. And Part B then said, discuss how that will be classified in IFRS 9. And now you're saying that, but you are not used to that level of integration as much as it's accounting. So that is something that when it comes to accounting, we'll then focus on bridging to just make sure that by the time you are done with this course, you are comfortable that questions for accounting will be much broader and much deeper than something you might have seen at CTA level. So essentially, when we compare CTA and ITC, this is what I will say you need to get out. That now you are saying that this is therefore my approach. If I was used to doing things in this particular way, then this will not work out. And another thing about it that we don't see quite a lot in CTA is that for SICA purposes, they've got what they call integration across different disciplines. And case in point, when you look at the June Paper 1 exam, the June Paper 1 exam started with management accounting, standard costing. It moved to a bit of pricing, Then it moved to tax, where the candidates needed to do tax for an individual and tax for a company. Then there were bribes, it moved to ethics, and then there was also a business risk question. So this is something that you also might not have been used to, and you'll find that when you get to the questions, how have we thought about helping you to bridge that particular gap, where now we are talking about an advanced level of integration across different disciplines, rather than just integration of topics under a particular discipline. So that is something that is quite important for you to start thinking about now, and also to appreciate that that level of integration, you might not have seen it before at CTA level. So now, taking all these things into account, what have we done? So we've then come and designed a program that includes 1, lectures, 2, question banks, 3, tutorials, and lastly, prep exams. So when you think about our ITC program, to say that if this is really the challenge, if the candidates are here and this is where they need to be by the end of Jan, then the question is, what do they need in between? So from our own perspective, this is what we thought will be the best bridge in order to what? To facilitate the transition from CTA to ITC. So now, when we talk about what? When we talk about lectures, what is our intention there? So lectures will be a bit different from how we've done them at CTA level, because the idea now is for us to highlight some of the things that I was talking about, to say that these are the things that you are likely to expect. These are the way that they ask questions, and so this is how you probably need to think about the best way to respond. And additionally, it is a matter of now saying to us that over the past 5 years, we have seen that accounting focuses on 1, 2, 3. We have seen that MENEC focuses on 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on. So now, how do we then bring all those things together and give you a consolidated view of what you can expect and how you need to do it, how you need to think about things differently. Like for instance, if you go to ITC and say, I just want to look at finance, what have they tested in the past 5 years? So if we say finance has been tested with 400 marks in the past 5 years, you will find that about 300 of those marks were just on valuation. So that means when it comes to lectures, we'll then prioritize valuations to ensure that our candidates are well prepared by the time they get to ITC. And when they start looking at those questions, they are more comfortable in terms of how they think about issues. Probably it's a bit different from how issues were thought about at CTA level. So that is the primary purpose of of the lectures to us, to just make sure that the complex topics or the most common topics are addressed, and any gaps, probably knowledge-wise or just difference in thinking, is well addressed during that part. Then, tutorials. So when it comes to the tutorials, we are now saying that we don't want you to start experiencing that level of integration on your own for the first time. So what we've then done is that we've then taken questions that are integrated in nature, and we are then saying to you that we want to cover and discuss this with you. So at the beginning of the program, you'll get you'll get 4 questions, and these are not going to be marked, but you are still expected to attempt them as part of preparation for the session. So you will then find that it's a single scenario, but there is a session scheduled for discussion of auditing. So the lecturer for auditing will then come and discuss that particular aspect. And on day 2, you might find that the accounting piece will then be discussed by a different lecturer. So that is the idea here, that we want you to start thinking about how topics can be integrated, and having then different sessions means that we are saying that there is a skill that you need to master of isolation, to say that if you get there and the paper has got all the disciplines you don't like, and You got the disciplines you don't like and some of the disciplines that you like. How do you isolate your thinking into answering and doing well on things that you know very well without being distracted about the things that you don't know so well? And in some cases, or in most cases, that's what you need in ITC. The ability to identify issues, isolate them, and handle them as they come. Rather than saying that I'm going to start from part A and so on and so on, I want to start here and so on, without necessarily thinking carefully about what you are trying to achieve at the end of the day. So that's something that the tutorials are meant to what? To help with. Then the questions pack. So when it comes to the questions pack, your printed pack will then include a total of 5 question banks. So the question banks will have 1, discipline focus questions. So those will be, so we've set it in a very interesting way where we then say that you've got 5 packs. So 5 banks. Then the 4 of them are discipline focused. So in the 4, you will have 1 which is called the accounting pack, the auditing pack, and math, as well as what? As well as tax. So this will be the individual files. And in each of them, you are looking at about 10 to what? To 12 questions. Some of them are very short, and some of them are 100 marks questions. And most of them are ITC past papers. And then what we are saying that in most of the questions that you're going to do here, if it's a 100 mark, it's likely that 100% of that is accounting, or 90% is accounting and 10 is probably another integrated topic. Then the same will then be true about what? About the other files. Again, short questions, short number of questions, taking into account the timing as well, the timing into consideration that the program will be starting in December and you'll have a bit of limited time. But so therefore, we've taken the time to select the questions included in here quite carefully. Then, in addition, you'll have what we call the integrated pack. So the integrated pack has now said that we are combining questions that in their nature, they don't probably have what? A dominant topic. So it could be that question 1 has got 40 marks accounting, 30 marks MENEC, and has got what? Has got 25 ethics, and has got something else to complete the math. But the idea is that when you do those questions, you are finding that there is no dominant topic, and you are now able to see that, oh, this is a technique to handle this type of questions. So when you plan or you draw your timetable, if you say that today is accounting day, we'll expect you to be here. Then we are saying that then some days should be ITC days. You want to just handle questions that help you to start preparing and to be well prepared for ITC exam. So this is the integrated pack. So that's what you will get as part of what? As part of your questions. And again, the questions are very limited in order to do what? In order to just make sure you don't get overwhelmed, but you still get value from the questions that you will do. And I think here the mantra of quality over quantity stands quite a lot, because if you got 10 questions, it means that the point is not to rush through them, but to do a question quite carefully, understand all the elements in it. And if you don't understand, engage the lecturers to make sure that you don't find yourself in a situation of what? In a situation where a similar principle is being tested at ITC, and you are saying that I didn't understand it so well in that particular question. So it is quite important for you to what? To then spend time looking at what? Looking at these particular questions. Then, in each of the discipline-based question, we have then included the ITC examinable pronouncements to just remind you that this is not what? This is not going to be tested at ITC. They're very clear in terms of what you can expect and what you cannot expect. And I think some of the things that we covered in CTA are not necessarily examinable at what? At ITC. For instance, for standard costing, they say you're not going to see any idle mix variances. So those are idle time variances. You're not going to see efficiency variances. So that's something that you might be saying that in CTA, that was one of your nightmare, but we are now saying use the opportunity to just revisit and make sure that what is examinable in ITC, it's something that you need to therefore spend time on, and anything else you then need to reduce your efforts. Then the integrated pack will then also include the psychocommunication guideline. So when it comes to those 5 to 7.5 marks, they are not leaving you in the dark. They are saying that we want you to get as many marks as possible when it comes to those. So here's a guideline that if you see that we are saying communication, clarity of expression, this is what we want you to do. If we say that communication marks logical argument, this is what we want you to do. So the guideline will be included in the integrated pack, and it will be worth your time to just go through it once in order to make sure that you're comfortable with the expectation. Then, as I pointed out, you'll also get the online printed notes, summarized versions. They've got lecture examples, and again, the idea is not for you to go through everything, but it's a matter of saying that these are my problem topics. Let me make sure that I go through the notes, I go through the videos before I start attempting questions or before I actually get to the exam. Then the tutorial questions, because of the timing, we are saying that unfortunately there will not have been There will not be submissions. But submissions for us have been something that we value because we're able to give personalized feedback to the candidate that attempted the tutorial. But I'm saying that don't think that that opportunity is not available. So if you've attempted it and you still have a problem with some specific issues, then you are most welcome to engage with us and make sure that your personal issues are well addressed. Then the question packs, as I said, the other thing that you just need to appreciate is that we've now incorporated a very comprehensive table of content. The table of content is just now to clarify, and we've seen that when it comes to timing, some candidates want better guidance to say what is happening in a question before they jump in. Because you might be sitting here and saying that the results are delayed by another 2 weeks, and you are now saying that I don't have time to do, say, PPE questions. I am comfortable if they throw something at me for PPE, I'll be able to handle it. So you will then have that table of contents which will give you details about the topics included in a question, and it will tell you what was the approach or what the examiners consider to be beneficial about that question, and when you attempt it, then you'll be You'll then be addressing particular set of skills. But if it's still a bit early in the process, it's always good to then say, especially for the integrated questions, to just choose a question at random and just say, I want to do it and make sure that whatever they throw at me, I'm quite comfortable with it. Then the objectives, and which is something that the lecturers will spend quite a lot of time on. One thing that is going to be important in ITC is your analytical and comprehension skills. So yes, we're assuming that you know your work now, but you need to be in the exam and in the moment. You need to be able to think critically and analytically about issues, that when they are telling you information, you need to take into consideration that it is most likely that those issues were informed by the solution. So you need to learn to challenge the information presented to you, question it, and be able to do what? Be able to get insights from them before or by the time the required is given to you. And even if the required is given and you had not thought about something, you need to then use that as an opportunity to then look at the scenario globally and say that, oh, that is what I was missing. That's why that paragraph was not making sense to me before. And to be honest, in some cases, I find that's what becomes the downfall for many candidates. Because they get to scenarios, it's either they're finding that they're too long or they are too detailed, there's just so many things happening, or maybe they're just struggling to link the information because they thought that this was a MENEC question, but next thing they're telling you that, no, we've bought a machine and this was from a foreign company, and now you're thinking that, wait, am I in tax, am I in accounting, and so on and so on. So those are some of the things that, for me, if you get that right, even if you don't do all the questions, if you master that skill, you will have the sufficient or the right level of confidence to attempt ITC and do well. And when it comes to the questions included in here, as I said, most of the questions are from ITC or SAICA. And the benefit of that is that the team has taken all those questions and they have then said that what is the ITC2020 examinable pronouncement looking like? And they've then removed anything that is no longer examinable, and they've updated any solutions that were based on previous legislation or statements. So essentially what we are saying is that do not go and download the papers directly from SAICA, because that will put you in a very confusing position, where now you'll be saying what? You'll be saying that, oh, you understand how this works, but maybe the tax rules have changed, maybe the accounting standards have changed, and so on and so on. So those are some of the things that you just need to be what? On the lookout for, to say that the team has already done that work for you, and you don't need to go back to SAICA website to download those papers. Then, the tutorials, as I said, that the best way to do what? To obtain value from this process is to make sure that you attempt the papers in advance. And when you get to what? To class, if you got your solution, if we're going through then the entire section, you can mark yourself against that, and that will actually go a long way into addressing your concerns. Then communication skills. One thing that I will also emphasize here is that do not allow yourself to skip questions in ITC. One, for communication purposes, if you skip a question, no marks. Number two, in most instances, the questions that you'll get in ITC, they might look very difficult, but at the end of the day, it's like they've always got a built-in passcode. So essentially, if you focus on a question, maybe it's a 12 marks question and it looks very difficult, most of the questions you'll find that there might have been 5 or just 6 marks that they're saying that if a candidate really found this question to be very difficult, then they should walk away with 6 marks and they will still do well. So those are some of the things that I also want to do as part of the program, especially when it comes to what? Especially when it comes to MENEC. Because in accounting, in most cases, you know what they're asking. It's either going to run out of time, or maybe you're going to struggle to find some information in there, or to structure your answer in a particular way. But in most cases, you understand what they want. And it's usually in MENEC where they'll say, evaluate this proposal. And you're like, wait, what do you want me to do, essentially? So those are some of the things that, as part of the program, we'll then spend a bit of time on, just to make sure that when we take that break, you are well prepared and you understand how to identify the passcode in order to ensure you get those basic or minimum number of marks. When it comes to delivery, the lectures, you'll find that the lecturers have got different approach. I will have a different approach for management accounting, strategy, and finance. And I'll be saying that I don't want us to go back to theory, or maybe I just want us to cover questions and so on. And it might work well for what? For MENEC. Then there will be accounting. Accounting might require that you go through the standards in order to get some insights that probably you didn't have before. And you might find that in text as well, the sessions might look very basic, but at the end of the day, you might find that that's what you essentially need for what? For success. So I'll want you to keep that at the back of your mind to say that don't preempt anything. The way that the lecturers deliver their respective disciplines is quite different from each other. But as a high-level guidance, each of us have just then provided more of what? A high-level overview of our approach and what we'll be aiming to achieve in each of our courses. So financial accounting, it'll be taken or it'll be delivered by Arsene. So that's just the overview that is presented there. And then auditing will be presented by Kumu. I will be presenting management accounting, finance, and strategy. And just to clarify, auditing will also, or Kumu will also be presenting governance as well as what? As well as ethics. So another thing, based on what I said earlier, you will find that when you look at the timetable will have AUD. AUD will be pure auditing. So that's the audit process if one is to summarize it from beginning to end. Then there will be a separate session called Gov, that will be governance and ethics. So that one will be focused on King 4, Companies Act, and the code. And APA. So that will be governance and ethics for us. Then when it comes to math as well, you'll find that there will be sessions for MAF, which will be either covering costing or finance. And in addition, there will be SRM, which will then be what? Which will then be strategy risk management. And for us, it's just to put emphasis on that guideline or the structure that SICA has published. So at the end of the day, you'll then be well prepared and understand what are the expectations for those disciplines. Then, additionally as well, when you think about and prepare for the exam, you might find that there will be ethics in my paper, but at the end of the day, it will be considered back into what? Into the auditing and assurance discipline or discussion. You might find that you're looking at tax and someone or a CA decided to understate maybe some revenues to reduce the tax bill. Then it jumps back to what? To auditing and governance discipline. But what we are saying is that as much as you'll be covering a particular discipline with a particular person, it does not mean that when it comes to examination, there will not be that integration. So strategy as well, strategy will not be limited to costing and finance, but you might be as well looking at an accounting question, and next thing is what? Is strategy. And for us, we have found that this is something that is also costing a lot of candidates, because candidates are not used to that kind of thinking. So before the program ends, it's something that I'll want you to just be familiar with and comfortable with when it comes to your preparation for ITC 2020. Then, the last part, then it's from Maduronke, who will then be taking you through text. So there will be 4 of us that will be delivering the board course over the next couple of weeks through to Jan. And just to clarify, when we get back to Jan, the Jan exam and the review sessions, there will be a combined class. So we've got 2 programs that we are running, the repeaters and the prep. So the repeaters are more on their study break, and then the prep will kick in, but in Jan, we'll come back together to conclude the program. And the exam, so the exam that I was talking about. So the exam, as I said, you'll find that on the timetable, it's actually scheduled to be on the 10th and 11th of Jan. So that's about the second weekend in Jan. And this will simulate ITC exam, meaning that that guideline, we take it and we say that we are setting a paper that talks to it. And we then consider the level of integration that we've seen, and we try to, we do our best to simulate that particular guideline so that you can be well prepared. So by the time we get there and after you've gone through the tutorial, you'll have now appreciated how everything works, and you'll be in a very good position to do what? To attempt that diligently and give what? Get a very good feedback in terms of where you are sitting. And that is essentially an outline of the ITC preparatory course. So essentially, that is what you can expect over the next couple of weeks. Any questions? No questions? You understand everything? It's good. It's a good way to start a program. So we're on the right track. So by the time we get to the juice, it'll be what? It'll be great for us to then put all those things that I was talking about into what? Into action, so that we're able to do what? So that we are able to get you well prepared for the exam. It's fun to learn. It'll be a bit frustrating, don't worry. So you'll get to those days where you think it looks a bit impossible, it looks a bit overwhelming, but the more you focus, the more you do the questions and spend time on them trying to understand what they're expecting of you, then you will love it. Yes.
How's the structure of the two exams, like the 2 days, the 29th and the 30th? Is it like, so with the disciplines, is it like the first day will be a certain set and the second day a certain set, or is it like a paper one of everything and a paper two of everything? How's it structured?
So they just decide. So the only thing that they are accountable to is this. So they can throw anything at you. But what we've seen, they like throwing, it's like they know. They like throwing what people don't like in paper one. And I don't know whether they're testing resilience. So I will say just prepare to stand from day one. That's usually the issue. The people who come back and say paper 3 was the best, we should have started with it, and so on and so on. And even from what we see in our scripts review, paper 1 and 2 are usually the challenging, or what most people found to be challenging. So, so I think be well prepared. It's like they hear this thing. If you say you're worried about text, you'll find text in day one. And but at the end of the day, there is no knowing. The only thing they hold themselves accountable to is this. Yeah.
When you say paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, are you saying in day 1 you can write more than one paper?
So day 1, you've got 2 papers. So essentially on day 1, so in terms of times, I think it's exactly like UNISA. 8:30, you'll be at Galaga, or wherever you are. And then from 8:30 to 11:30, right? Yes, then that will be paper 1. And I think you also get a 3-hour break or a 2-hour break. Then you come back for paper 2. So from day 1, you can actually get a better sense of what to expect in day 2. And I think maybe that's what contributes to people's performance on day 2. Because you'll go back here and say that I saw that accounting was tested with a total of 70 marks. So there's no way that I'll get more than 30 marks tomorrow. So if I'm one of those that I study in the evening, that means I might not even touch accounting because it's not going to be dominant tomorrow. Then you are saying that I didn't even see any text. So you are bound to either see text, paper 3 being a dominant topic, and so on and so on. And as I was saying, that I think that for candidates that get to understand this, it helps quite a lot. The unpredictable one is this one, because in it you've got 3 things. So like in day 1, you can get a king code question, but they are not done. So tomorrow they can come back, and you are not sure whether they will come back on Companies Act, because it's still governance, or whether they'll come on strategy, or whether they'll come on risk. So that's the one that is a bit tricky of them all. But the other ones, you can have a very good sense of what to expect. Another interesting thing is, in terms of disciplines that tend to be broken down, it's 1, auditing and assurance, 2, accounting, and 2, accounting and tax. So those are the ones that, and strategy, risk, and management, those are the ones that tend to be broken down. Well, what you can be comfortable that will not be broken down quite a lot is MENEC. So if you see a finance question, then you know they're done with finance. So that's something that we've seen. But if you see a substantive procedures question, then you don't know whether they are done with it. You can actually get tomorrow, they've got another substantive procedures, or they've got now CADs, and so on and so on. So those are the ones that tend to be a bit challenging, because you are not clear whether they are done with this particular section or not. And for them, what we have seen, they don't mind testing, especially, it's a bit frustrating, and you're gonna see it in the question packs. They don't mind, say for accounting, testing just 3 topics. And you got 100 marks in that, you got an 80 marks question, they've got intangibles with 30 marks, they've got revenue with 40, and they conclude maybe with financial instrument with 10 marks. And you're saying that all that work for just 3 topics. And I think that's one thing that gets to be frustrating about accounting. And tax, the tricky thing is sometimes they test only individuals. In others, they test both individuals and companies. In others, they just do a company's calculate taxable income and they're done. So, and overall, that's what makes ITC tricky. That you could be saying that, no, I'm hoping they don't bring revenue, and you are there, 40 marks revenue. So that's the problem with ITC. And your performance will make it seem as if you don't know your work or you didn't prepare very well. But it might be that one topic was just not the one you were looking forward to. So that to me is what differentiates it from CTA. Because you knew that in groups, that the paper will have a cash flow statement. It had a cash flow. It will have a foreign operation. It will have a revenue question. Yes, the mark allocation you don't know, but you know those things will be there. So you know when you're studying, you are not missing the mark. So here you can actually study, and then the topics that are tested, they make you seem as if you don't know your work or you didn't study at all. So that is the most important thing that I will say. When you are preparing, you need to take that into consideration. Yes?
I saw the draft timetable.
Yes.
You guys have middays and during the day. Not all of us are.
So when it comes to prep, and prep, the issue is always timing. And you'll see that the weekend we're ending on, the next weekend is Christmas, and I'm sure none of you want to be here. So something has to give. So what normally gives is, for the first time, we then try to reduce the number of full days as much as possible. So essentially, this year, we are planning to only have 2 full days during the week, which is when we are starting at 8 o'clock in the morning up until 4. That is compared to last year, where about 6 classes were during the day. But then we then said, maybe if you are not meeting minds with your bosses, you can negotiate for a 2 o'clock knock-off time. So we then said for the other 2 sessions, rather than starting them early in the morning, maybe you can get that break from work and say, can I do a half day today? And that class will then start at 2:30 and run up until 8 or 9 latest. So it was just more of a compromise. So at the end of the day, 2 full days during the week, and then 7 days over the weekends, including the long weekend or the public holiday of the 16th, and then those 2 half days sessions. So that's essentially the best we could do given the circumstances. So we are hoping that you can use your negotiation skills to get those few days. But most companies in December are a bit chilled. So generally people bank on that. Okay. So yeah. Any other question? Are you getting a sense of what is happening in ITC? Same story, but a bit different when it comes to approach. Are we all good? So approach, not too much here that I want to spend time on. So as I said, the majority of the effort we have then discussed. So I'm going to talk to this. Then I will give the 2 gentlemen at the back who will introduce themselves, and who will be taking you through accounting as well as auditing throughout the program. So from our side, and also just to get a better sense of what we're going to do. So we believe that key to success in ITC is on the 3 pillars that we've outlined here. 1, that you need to know your work. To be honest, there's no shortcut around that. So most people think they can outdo questions to pass ITC. So ITC is not like, because as I'm saying that the biggest reason that we are finding people are not doing well is these surprises that they get. And the surprises come from the fact that you might have spotted or not well prepared for the entire syllabus. So 1, we are saying that first efforts should be to understanding the content. Then the second part should then to practice enough in order to do what? In order to improve your reading skills. Where now you are saying that you are begging for that 30 minutes because you are able to get so much insight from the paper. In other words, so you are analytical about it, you are able to read the scenarios in full, and you're able to do what? You are able to get the hints that they might have thrown into the paper, and when it comes to discussion, you're able to pull through relevant points. Then lastly, we are saying coming again from doing questions is the ability to what? To demonstrate effective exam technique. So this is your ability to plan, this is your ability to present answers in ways that they are required. If there are multiple required, it is able to identify those and to respond to them. It is to respond to essentially what the examiner has asked you to do, managing your time and managing your presentation and all these things. So we are saying that these 3 elements need to be balanced or need to be considered in order to ensure that by the end of the program, you are actually what? You are actually comfortable with what? With your approach and your preparations. Then the next issue is to then clarify the timing issue. Because of the uncertainty around the results, as I'm saying, it becomes very critical to use our material carefully so that you don't overwhelm yourself. Because essentially, as I said, you'll have 4 question banks plus the integrated one, your notes, your videos, and so on. So you need to take a step back and say, how do I use these resources to the best of my ability? So here we're just clarifying that we are not expecting you to watch each and every video. We are not expecting you to go through each and every lecture example in your notes. We are not expecting you to study each and every page in your notes. We know that for some, they might be saying that accounting is my problem child. So they might put a lot of effort, and you'll find that they spend a lot of time on the videos as well as the material. That's fine, because now you are doing things that will put you at a safe or comfortable level. And that is something that to us makes sense. And you might find that you are using the questions in order to also guide your preparation, to say that if I do a question, it's not a matter of, yes, I messed up. It's not a matter of, yes, I got this mark, but it's a matter of learning from it and doing what? And making sure by the time you go to the next question, you've got skills that are transferable from one question to the next. Then, what we are then saying is first, identify the knowledge gap. Where do you believe you are not the strongest? So if you know very well that if they bring that 40 marks question on revenue or listing, you'll not do well. Then to me, you've got some knowledge gaps or principle gaps to address. So start there essentially. How? Get to the videos, get to the notes. Once you're comfortable, then use the table of contents in order to find what you need to address. Then number 2, when it comes to exam technique, that's something that is also going to be critical. You need to do what? You need to do questions here. But as I'm saying, do not do questions while you are learning the principles at the same time. So you need to separate the two. That if I'm going to do questions, I need to say to myself, I'm comfortable with these particular principles. But not to say that, let me see if I know my principle and I'm going to do this question. That won't work. So when it comes to exam technique, we are saying once you're comfortable, use the tutorial as a tool to see what you are expected or what is expected of you. As I said, for us, the tutorial is a good way to familiarize yourself with the IT examination style and also to introduce you to what? To the manner of thinking and how to develop the skills that are critical for success. And one thing that you need to do in most cases where quality becomes critical is for you to spend a lot of time understanding why, when they've asked you for 8 things, you gave them 4, and when you opened the solution, you found that there were 20 of them. So that is something that you need to what? To be careful of. Because as one thing that I've also seen, ITC, it's like they know you. By the time, there's something about, by the time you do these questions, it's like they had conversation with you and you were telling them about your weakness and they're going to test your weakness. So the reason I'm saying this is that a lot of time candidates will say to me that they don't like discussion questions. They just want to focus on a calculation so they do well. Then it's like someone was listening, then came Jan 2019 exam, paper 1 had about 17 marks discussion, the calculation. The rest of it was what? Was discussion. Then come paper 2. Paper 2 had about 14 plus 6, had about 20 marks calculations, and the rest of it was discussion. So in just 2 papers alone, they had about 160 discussion. And if you had said that you don't like discussion, then you were not going to enjoy that paper at all. So those are some of the things that I'll want you to start thinking about, to say that when you are doing questions, are you improving your weaknesses? Because if you do a question and you find that you didn't do so well, then you say, I hope that I'll do well in the next one. You need to go back and try to understand that, wait, how did these people get to 20 points when they asked me for just 8? And I struggle to even give them 4. So this is then what I will say, that if it takes you a day, to be honest, it's a day well spent. You will not have wasted a day, but you will have learned quite a lot to say that now I understand how to read scenarios better, I understand how to extract information, and when I get a question, I need to be on the lookout for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then if I get this 5, then they will help me to get to the 10 points that I want. So those are the things that we'll spend a lot of time working through, especially when we talk to strategy, finance, and costing, because those are the ones that require some critical thinking under what? Under exam scenario. So this is just a guidance in terms of how you need to go about your studying. Doing what? Post-mortem, and identifying why you are not doing well against the available marks, why you are not getting the C's and the P's, and so on. So these C's and the P's, at the end of the day, to be honest, they can secure your pass. And you'll get to see them even in the official solutions that will include as part of your question banks. That in some cases, a question might have 20 marks, but out of those 6 or 8 marks are C's and P's, meaning that you just needed to demonstrate to the examiner you know your work. And you needed to get 2 things right and then get the full marks. Then the next part will then be to talk to what? Will then be examination technique. But as I said, for examination technique, what will happen, a lot of it will then be materialized during lectures. So I don't want us to spend time on it now, but I want you to go through that content and then do what? Then as you get to different lectures, you'll find that in that examination outline, then there will be examination technique outline. Text will look at it differently. I will look at it differently. Accounting audit will also look at it differently. So that is how you will see that guideline actually materializing. But to me, the booklet is quite important for you to then use as a reference point. If now you are saying that I don't have good exam technique, where do you go? What do you refer to? And what are you saying specifically when you say you don't have a good exam technique? So that is what that outline is all about. So it's actually an outline from SICA. They don't do it from nowadays from what I hear. But back in the days when we write ITC, when you register, they will send you that little booklet of exam technique. They will have verbs where they are telling you when they say evaluate, this is what they mean, and so on and so on. But I hear they don't do it nowadays, but it used to be very useful. So I just extracted a slide from there to just give you a sense to say, when they say candidates struggle with exam technique, what are they talking about? So that is what that slide talks to. All right, so that is what I wanted to talk to. So as I said, I'll give an opportunity for the gentleman at the back to introduce themselves, and if you've got any questions, you can then engage them with regards to their specific discipline approach that they're going to follow as part of the course. Sure.
Good evening, guys. I'm Arsen Malola, and I'll be taking you guys for the financial accounting course and external reporting. First of all, I want to just say congratulations to all of you guys and all of you guys watching online. I'm glad to see a few familiar faces. Makes me very happy. Sorry? Well, I mean, at least you're being proactive about it. So all the same, right? So we're going to be seeing you in the program. So in terms of the financial reporting, financial accounting reporting module, how we're going to approach it, it's going to be quite different to the CTA program in that because you've come this far, assuming and knowing that you're actually going to be successful in your CTA course, you essentially know all the information. So all the principles, all the theory, putting it down on page. You guys, I know that you guys know the stuff. But now when you're coming to transitioning into the CTA way of doing things, it becomes, as Renani has mentioned throughout this lecture, it becomes a lot more difficult in that a lot more is expected from you guys. So from a financial accounting perspective, you're going to see a lot more integration of topics. You're going to see a heightened level of so very complex scenarios that are often very relevant to the world that we're living in. So they're going to pick something that's controversial, an industry that's emerging, and then they're going to put an accounting problem, present it to you, and expect you to tackle that with the information that you now know. So the objective with our course for financial reporting will be primarily to essentially mold you from what you know from a CTA, your NISA perspective, into being able to tackle an ITC question. So in going through the process, we're going to have contact sessions. So in the contact sessions, I think there are just 2 of them, so very short, 2 days. There's no time to go through all of the theory, right? So we're not going to be doing that. From an accounting perspective, and there's detailed inside my little note that I have for you inside the slides, one of the key things, so the 2 key things that I highlight in that note that I've left for you inside your little booklet, but the first thing is understanding the principles. Or any one of you guys that have been with me through the journey of CTA will know how much I value the principles of essentially the standards. But we don't have time to go through all the principles. So during the contact sessions, we'll just go through the key principles. The great thing about ITC is that because they try to be controversial and current and stick with the times, they can somewhat, I say somewhat, be predictable. So we know the controversial standards, we know the new standards. Everyone is talking about IFRS 9, because this year was the first year this standard was actually, or companies actually reporting in IFRS 9. IFRS 15, this year is also the first year. So we know that's the talk of the town. That's the stuff we're going to try to break down and make sure that you guys understand. IFRS 16, right? It'll be applicable only next year. But already there's a lot of buzz with this standard. For some reason, they love IAS 38, so your intangible assets, provisions, taxes and deferred taxes. You're not going to get away from that one, right? So we're going to focus on these standards, make sure that you understand the key principles in these. So we're not going to go through the entire syllabus. And we're going to be speaking in context of preparing you to see much more integration. So with consolidations, as mentioned by Rendani, IFRS 3, and IFRS 2. So we're going to speak and try to sort of, so you understand or you can see how these topics come together and can be integrated as one. So that will be primarily what we're going to try to do in our contact sessions. The second thing that I really want to highlight, which is also in that little booklet, is that it's all about exam technique for me. So knowing your principles and exam technique. And we've mentioned this also throughout the course. So it's no good knowing your principles, but not being able to put them down on a page. So the exam technique part, the unfortunate, I say unfortunate, but not really unfortunate, is that is all up to you. Right? So this period between now, when you kickstart the ITC course, and from when you write end of Jan sometime, it's not a holiday. I mean, I know it is December and Christmas and you want to be family, but it really isn't a holiday. ITC is a very difficult exam, and you're not going to pass this exam by not practicing. You're going to work super hard during this period, and you may just make it, or you may pass with flying colors, right? But the key is you won't be able to just make it if you don't work very hard, right? Either way, you have to work hard to just make it or do phenomenally well. So the exam technique part is difficult because, from my perspective, because I can't control what you guys go and do during this holiday period. What I can do is equip you with the skills or your thought process as to how you should be reading the scenarios, how you should be interpreting the requires, because in ITC, your requires become that much more complex. They're going to become longer, more complicated. So we're just going to need to go through how you essentially break down these requires very slowly, because that's a key in passing your exams and getting all these communication and presentation marks that Rendani was spoken about, because those are very easy marks to miss out on. And during that practice time, also in my note to you in the slides, and also in Madodonke's note to you, he outlines an approach to actually practicing your tests and exams, which I cannot stress enough. And Rendani actually mentioned a portion of, I think, what is the most important during your preparation time, is that you need to take your prep seriously. So exam conditions, we all know about that. So close your door, get your snacks, do what you need to do, put your phone away, and practice this thing. But the most important part is the marking, right? So I could also attribute this to, I think, a lot of my success in exams, in that when you mark a test or paper and you sort of get 60%, right? Happy for you, I'm glad you passed. But your concern should not be the 60 you got, but the 40 you missed, right? Because it's actually not 40 that you missed, because if you look at the max marks, you probably missed like 70 marks or something. So you need to focus your attention throughout this 2-month period as to all the things that you missed. And you need to ask yourself, why did I miss these marks, right? And go back to, you've got all the resources in the world. You've got the videos, you've got the course material, you have us on WhatsApp, you've got us on email. Figure out, and you've got yourselves as well on WhatsApp, so figure out where you went wrong. But take that a step further. What I used to do when I was studying or practicing, I used to actually write down everything that I got wrong after I wrote the test or exam. And I used to write down what is actually the right thing to do. Because what the great thing about doing that is, you learn it the first time, and then the day or 2 or 3, and whatever your study approach is, before the exam. After you, I don't know whether you reread all your notes again or whatever the case may be. You have a little, hopefully not too thick, but a little booklet of everything that you got wrong, why you got it wrong, and what you need to do so that you never make that mistake again, right? You just read those one more time. And I promise you, you'll never make that mistake ever again. So when you come in the ITC exams, not only are you comfortable and confident with what you do know, you're comfortable that whatever mistake you made during this 2-month period, you will not make again in the ITC course. And I think that way, you will definitely be poised for success at the end of Jan for this course. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you guys in this little period, and supporting and guiding you through the 2-month period where you have to be working super hard, no holidays, and looking forward to our joint success through the ITC program. Thank you very much.
Right, hello everyone. I thought you guys were going to clap for us. Okay, anyway, my name is Kumu. Glad to see quite a few familiar faces around. I don't want to spend much time introducing myself. I'll be taking you guys for assurance, auditing, and corporate governance. That includes ethics as well. For you guys that know me, you know that I love the standard as well. So very much unlike Arsene, who loves the accounting standards, I think they're too difficult and confusing. So I love the ISAs. So those are the ones that I'll help you navigate through. My ask from you guys, or of you guys, is that I want you to trust in the knowledge that you've gained in CTA. So this point in time is not a point in time where you start learning the theory, right? So for the guys that have been through it this year, it's good because you already know what I'm looking for. For the guys that are joining us for the first time, you're not lost. You're lucky because you'll get the material, the videos in which I've starred in during the year, and of course a few other people in the background with voices and answering my questions. So you're lucky you've got that material where you only need to reference when you're stuck. I don't want you to go back and start learning the theory again. But one rule in my class, if you come to my class, you need to bring your auditing books. So your ISAs, your King Code, your Companies Act, and the rest. The other ask I have is, if you don't have the new books, and if you can get the new books, please buy the new books, because my material is more aligned to the new books, and the difference is in the new code. And the CPC is something that they have been focusing a lot on, and I don't want you guys to get lost when we have that discussion. So if you can get the new books, I advise you get the new books from an auditing perspective. Other than that, it's the same message that everybody has been telling you. The only way you can do ITC is practice, practice, practice. So it's questions, questions, questions. You don't do questions, you're going to see flames for the first time in the exam. So you have to be very careful. You're not going to study what is ISO 210 saying. You're going to practice putting down what is in Isaac 210, applying it to the scenario. And that is the approach you need to follow for ITC, and that is the way to success. So don't worry, you're not alone. We're here to hold your hand and cross over with you. In ITC, all you need is a pass. You don't need a 90%. There is no 90% in ITC. That's a pass. Okay, right, guys. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you guys in the first class. And all the best. Yes, you can clap for me.
All right. So yeah, that's your team. So Madodongo will not be joining us today. He sent his apologies, but you'll get an opportunity to meet him for those that have not, and for those that already know him, then you'll get an opportunity to work with him throughout the course. So in conclusion, if you just jump to page 40 of the little booklet. So as I said, the discussion part, the exam technique part, I'm not going to work through. So what I just want to talk to before we leave in the evening, I think one of the important thing about this particular program is the availability of the lecturers. So to us, we believe an effective and a quality program requires easy access to help when you need it, and especially when you need it. So it's a matter of ease and when it is required. So what we've then outlined, just to make sure that we are all on the same page, is essentially what we call our flexible consultation process, in case you are stuck. So you will see that from where we are sitting, it's always quite important that even when you engage with the lecturers on WhatsApp group or even other students, it's a matter of you don't turn it into a lecture, but you always engage in order to either help yourself to develop from where you are. So even if you are to ask a question, even if you are to say you want to consult, it should be a matter of, I've done 1, 2, 3. And after doing 1, 2, 3, I thought this is what will be the outcome. However, this is where I'm ending, or this is what I'm seeing. How do I now bridge this gap? So that's the kind of consultation or the engagement that we encourage. So it should not be a matter of, as Kumo puts it should not be a matter of, in Nokla, what do I need to know? Because it means that it's like you're engaging to find a shortcut to this thing. And this is not the point of this course. So as much as the course is quite short, at the end of the day, we want you to have developed, we want you to have started thinking differently about the things that you're going to do. And especially if you're going to the work environment, it's always something that is quite important that when you get there, some of the things or the majority of the things that you've studied in CTA as well as preparing for your ITC are some of the things that have become entrenched or a part of you. So it is quite important that even when you engage with the lecturers and your fellow students, you use it as a process of development, and you always start with where you are and where you need the help to get to. Then what we've then outlined is that from a consultation perspective, it's important that the consultations are not a private class. So essentially, we are saying that we've made the videos available, we've made the notes available to you. So if you are stuck, that's where we will recommend you start at. Rather than what? Rather than say to, you say you want to see a lecturer, you just want him to explain that from beginning to end or from year to year. But it's a matter of now you've gone through all those processes and you just want now the extra hand. And we are then saying that for us, the WhatsApp group are very important. And what we understand is nowadays having 2 phones, it's a norm, I think. So if you are one of those and you've registered maybe a different number, it's quite important to just engage Zelia and just inform her that you want a different number to be added onto the WhatsApp group. Because in most cases, we use that as part of what? Of communicating critical things. If maybe after a lecture, I just want to clarify, or maybe there was a question in class and I wanted to clarify a couple of things before I respond to it fully. It might be a situation where after I've clarified those things, I'll come back into the group and then said 1, 2, 3. And as I said, for the online candidates during class, what we've started doing as part of the repeaters program, we were getting a lot of questions during break and then responding to them thereafter. So for us, it's then a very good opportunity to then use such platforms in order to engage. Then additionally, we are saying that when it comes to appointment, all of the appointments, it's always ideal for them to go through the admin office. So the email, ITC Care, will be the one that will be exclusively dedicated for you guys. You can use that in order to send any queries, administration, improvement suggestions, improvement complaints, anything related to the program you can send there, and she will facilitate. In terms of direct queries, you can, technical queries, maybe you just want to detail your questions over email, because there's some candidates who will say that I just want to do at least 3 questions, put the questions down, and then I'll email the lecturer all of them at once. So again, if you have to send an email to a lecturer because the questions are too long or too comprehensive, it's always important to CC the ITC Care. So that process is actually detailed in that section called In Conclusion, where we just address how we communicate, and also we outlined what? We outlined the emails for the lecturers. But as I'm saying, the lecturers will be available to you in the WhatsApp group to ask any questions at any point in time. With regards to calls, we always say that it's always important for them to go through office so that you just clear in terms of the person that you want to call is available. As you know, it's December holidays. People that are not doing CTA or ITC are having a life. In case you are not clear. So if you want to contact someone, as I'm saying, it's always best to engage ITC Care. So there will be a time where the admin office will be officially closed and will inform of alternative process to get hold of the team around that particular time. But other than that, this is the protocol that will ask that you do what? That you follow. And in case you forget, we've put on this last slide, the examination dates for ITC. But that's all we had in store for you tonight. So if you have got any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. And also or via any platform, call, email, or WhatsApp. So what will happen, just so that you will not be surprised, when we start the program, you will have a separate group, ITC Prep, but once your program ends, we're going to put you in the same group so that it becomes easier to ask questions and to engage with all the students in the program. So here is just so that the specific issues related to this program are kept separate. So you'll find that there's the ITC Prep, but later on there will be a single group with the other codes. But other than that, that's all from us. Any other question? All good. So as you wait, we wish you all the very best. So we hope that they come out next week. I really hope so, to be honest. I hope they're not delayed any further. And make sure you've paid your fees. You've paid your fees, right? So that you don't delay the results. All right? Hope to see you soon. All the best.